It is All Saints' Day, 1755, and within minutes, Lisbon will become the deadliest disaster of the entire 18th century. By 9:40 in the morning, the ground beneath one of Europe's richest and most devout cities will simply cease to exist as solid earth. Lisbon rises golden above the wide river Tagus, the glittering crown jewel of a Portuguese empire built on silver, spice, gold, and faith. Church bells echo across the hillside city as thousands gather inside grand stone cathedrals to celebrate the holiest morning of the year. Candles flicker gently beside the gilded altars, while incense drifts slowly through naves packed shoulder to shoulder with kneeling worshippers. Outside along the harbor, merchants unload crates from tall ships, utterly unaware that the sea itself is about to turn violently against them. Unknown to anyone celebrating below, the royal family has already left the city for their countryside palace, a choice that will save their lives. At exactly 9:40 in the morning, a low, terrible groan rises up from somewhere deep beneath the entire Portuguese Atlantic coastline itself. Within seconds, the solid ground begins to roll like ocean swells, and stone bell towers sway violently against a perfectly clear blue sky. The first tremor lasts less than a minute, yet it is enough alone to crack the walls of cathedrals that had stood for centuries untouched. A second, far more violent shock follows almost immediately after, tearing straight through every building foundation across the entire city. Marble columns snap apart like dry kindling, and entire stone facades peel away from buildings, crashing thunderously into the streets below. Screams rise from inside the crowded Basilica of Santa Maria as its enormous roof collapses directly onto the terrified congregation beneath. Dust rises so thick and heavy over Lisbon that for several long minutes the morning sun itself seems to vanish behind a curtain of grey ash. Survivors stagger out from crumbling churches, many still clutching prayer books, unsure whether the world itself has finally ended today. The royal palace, thankfully empty of its family that morning, folds silently in on itself, burying centuries of priceless art and archives. Streets that were bursting with life only moments earlier are now choked with fallen stone, overturned carts, and the screaming, bleeding wounded. Thousands run instinctively toward the open waterfront, believing the wide, exposed riverbank will finally offer safety from the ruins above. They gather along the ruined docks in stunned silence, watching the great river Tagus pull back from the shore with unnatural, eerie speed. For a few unbearable minutes, nothing happens at all, and the terrified crowd simply stares at a harbor that has completely, eerily disappeared. Then far out on the horizon, a wall of dark water begins rising, enormous and unstoppable, moving faster than any human being could ever run. The tsunami finally strikes the waterfront with a force that instantly swallows ships, houses, and hundreds of screaming, desperate survivors. 3 separate waves crash violently through the lower city, each one dragging bodies and debris back out into the churning Atlantic Ocean. Those who fled the earthquake toward the river now vanish beneath the very same water they had desperately believed would finally save them. Meanwhile, deep within the ruined city, thousands of abandoned candles from the interrupted morning mass quietly begin to spread new fire. Flames leap eagerly between collapsed timber roofs and shattered oil lamps, feeding hungrily on a city already torn wide open by the ruin. Within only a few hours, the fire becomes a raging inferno, tearing through narrow streets far too choked with rubble for anyone left to flee. The blaze burns on for nearly 5 relentless days, consuming libraries, royal palaces, and archives recording centuries of Portuguese history. By the time the flames finally die down, almost nothing remains standing of what was once one of the very grandest capital cities in Europe. Somewhere between 12 and 50,000 people are dead in total, killed by falling stone, sudden drowning, or the raging hungry flames. News of the catastrophe spreads rapidly across Europe within weeks, shaking a continent that had believed such total destruction impossible. Philosophers and writers across the continent begin questioning openly how a just God could allow such sudden, senseless, total devastation. The philosopher Voltaire will later write extensively about Lisbon, using the disaster to challenge centuries of comfortable, optimistic thought. Amid the smoking ashes, one determined man steps forward to take firm control of a capital city that no longer resembles a functioning place. The Marquis of Pombal, chief minister to the shaken king, gives history's most famous instruction for rebuilding a shattered, broken Lisbon. Bury the dead and feed the living, he commands firmly, refusing to let panic and superstition paralyze the traumatized surviving population. Bodies are gathered quickly and buried at sea in an effort to prevent deadly disease from spreading through the exhausted, grieving population. Pombal enforces strict military order, deploying soldiers to prevent looting while organizing emergency food for tens of thousands of survivors. He commissions royal engineers to design an entirely new Lisbon, one deliberately built to survive earthquakes that would surely come again. Wooden building models are shaken and tested by soldiers marching rhythmically around them, an early and remarkably clever form of engineering. Wide, straight avenues replace the tangled medieval streets, deliberately designed to stop fire from ever spreading so catastrophically again. A grid of reinforced buildings rises steadily from the ashes, their timber frames hidden inside stone, designed to flex gently, never shatter. The new Lisbon that slowly emerges is more organized, more resilient, and utterly transformed from the fragile city that had stood before it. What had been one of Europe's most devout capital cities becomes, quite unexpectedly, an early birthplace of modern earthquake science itself. The disaster forces an entire generation across Europe to separate natural catastrophe from divine punishment for the very first time in history. Today, walking through downtown Lisbon, visitors are unknowingly walking through Pombal's rebuilt city, born directly out of total catastrophe. Few tourists realize the elegant straight streets beneath their feet exist only because of the disaster that destroyed everything before them. The earthquake, tsunami, and fire of 1755 together remain among the deadliest natural disasters in all of European history. And yet, despite the ruin, the drowning, and the flames, Lisbon refused to disappear entirely. It was rebuilt again, stronger and far wiser. History never truly disappears completely. It gets buried and rebuilt and remembered again, one broken city and one hard lesson at a time. If this story moved you even slightly, subscribe now for more cinematic journeys into the disasters and lost cities that shaped our modern world. Tell me in the comments which lost city or forgotten
Lisbon
catastrophe you want reconstructed next, and it might just become our very next film.